Exposed, how one billionaire's heartwarming choice to bring his maid to a ball changed everything. James Thornton stood in the foyer of the historic Chicago Art Institute, surrounded by luxurious silk and the faint scent of expensive cologne. His life, a string of high-profile meetings and dazzling launches, had turned him into the poster child of success. Yet tonight, amid the laughter and chatter of Chicago's elite, a dark weight rested heavily on his chest. Glamour and glitz enveloped him, yet he felt an all-consuming loneliness, a stark contrast to the life he had crafted for himself. As he scanned the crowd, glassy-eyed and aimlessly, he saw Rosa, his devoted maid. She was busy adjusting the linens at a nearby table, her brow furrowed with concentration. In that moment, something inside him shifted. Behind her tired eyes was tenacity. Rosa had been his silent anchor, working multiple jobs to support her young daughter. The thought of her struggling while his world sparkled with limitless opportunity struck a chord. With an impulsive burst, James decided to break all conventions. The image of him escorting a single mother like Rosa across that elegant venue felt like a breath of fresh air, a breath he longed for. It was now or never. He approached her, heart racing. "Rosa, would you be my date tonight?" His voice trembled with anticipation. Surprise flickered across her face, quickly replaced by hesitation. Who was he, a billionaire, and what was she, a working-class mother, doing crossing that boundary? But in her eyes, James saw something spark, a hint of hope weaving into the woven fabric of their evolving relationship. Before they stepped onto the red carpet, James battled internal demons. Photos snapped and people gasped. As whispers rippled through the well-dressed crowd, he felt alive yet terrified. Rosa's pulse raced, battling between pride and discomfort. "This isn't right," she muttered, a mix of joy and insecurity wrestling within her. But James, swept up by the moment, took her hand tighter, ushering her into his world. Distant murmurs echoed as they navigated through the sea of stares. What is he thinking? Isn't that a bit scandalous? The elite recoiled in judgment, their eyes cutting through their fine attire. But James couldn't help but feel a surge of defiance. Their laughter filled the void as they shared stories, snatches of their lives woven together through shared experiences, his childhood loneliness and her sacrifices. Among the opulence, raw honesty blossomed. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But as the night wore on, shadows cropped up anew. Tension began to rise, guests muttered about classism, privilege, and the audacity of James's choice. With each sneering whisper, Rosa shrank inside, the weight of their contrasting worlds pressing down like a heavy cloak. James's heart sank, torn between the glittering image he had built and the raw, authentic connection blooming beside him. With the escalating argument around them, a whirlwind of contrasting beliefs and firm positioning, James faced a crossroads. Could he challenge the expectations shoved upon him? Would Rosa's courage be enough to weather this storm? As his gaze met hers, uncertainty coursed through him. Their connection felt like a shooting star against a backdrop of darkened skies, brilliant yet transient. Would love triumph over the judgment and isolation gripping both their hearts? The atmosphere thickened, heavy with whispered judgments and stolen glances. As the night wore on, James felt the growing distance between him and Rosa, despite their hands locked tightly together. The laughter that moments before seemed so genuine began to feel like empty echoes against the elegant walls. "James, maybe we should," Rosa started, her voice almost drowned out by the clinking of glasses and the laughter of the elite. She looked down at her dress, a beautiful deep blue that contrasted with her usual work attire. This was her moment to shine, yet her insecurities loomed like dark clouds overhead. "No," James interrupted, his voice steady but filled with urgency. Tonight is special. We owe it to ourselves. He wanted to shout against the tide of whispers, to drag her away from the judgment that bruised her spirit. They danced, albeit awkwardly at first. James held her tightly, his eyes sparkling with genuine admiration as he spun her around. For a few moments, their laughter drowned out the whispers. Rosa's eyes sparkled, the tension in her shoulders easing as she lost herself to the rhythm of the music. But the magic was fleeting. As the last notes faded, applause erupted, bringing the couple back to reality. People clapped not for them, but for the spectacle. Rosa felt the warmth of fading applause turn cold. "Maybe they're right," she whispered, breaking the spell. "What were we thinking?" "Rosa," he said, dropping her hand gently but firmly, "don't let them define you. You're not just a maid. You have strength, dignity. I see that." His eyes carved an earnest plea through her uncertainty. The moment hung, thick and fragile. People around them began to disperse, their conversations shifting to warmer subjects, leaving Rosa exposed. Despite the admiration James expressed, she struggled to accept it. "But I'm just me," she managed, a bittersweet smile tugging at her lips. Sometimes, it felt unreal. Perhaps she was just a prop in his narrative to spice up a ball that thrived on scandal. "What if this costs you?" She hesitated, searching his face for any sign of mischief or regret. James opened his mouth, then paused, searching for words that could encapsulate the truth of what he felt. "It won tea. I refuse to go back to that empty world of status. You make me feel," he faltered, then whispered, "alive." His words cracked open the layers of fear wrapped around her heart. A flicker of hope ignited, yet doubt shadowed it closely. What if this connection could withstand the scrutiny? Suddenly, the lights dimmed again, signaling the start of the next round of introductions. People huddled close, preparing to announce the evening's highlight, an award celebrating philanthropists shaping the future. Anxiety gripped Rosa's heart. Would she become the topic of another story, one that didn't involve the joy of the dance but the folly of audacity? James held her gaze, a silent promise that transcended the chaos around them. "Let us stay, just for a few more moments. Together." Rosa nodded slowly. Their connection felt electrifying despite the scrutiny hanging in the air, pulling at the threads of the life she had built. Could they really challenge the status quo? Or would their worlds pull them apart before they had the chance to find out? As applause thundered from the crowd, Rosa knew that a choice lay before them. Could she step into the unknown and fight for what could be, or would she retreat back to the safety of her familiar world? With the lights flickering and their paths in question, James squeezed her hand, the unspoken weight of their decision palpable. Little did they know, the night's revelations would change everything. What was the true price of love in the face of doubt? As the announcer's voice boomed across the room, their hearts raced with anticipation and fear. What awaited them on the other side? The air was electric, charged with a mix of tension and excitement. Rosa could feel her pulse quickening as the announcer's words echoed in the grand hall, drawing in the attention of every elegantly dressed guest. She glanced at James, whose eyes were locked onto her with an unwavering focus, as if they were in a world separate from everyone else. "Tonight, we will honor those who continue to uplift our community," the announcer continued, his voice booming with passion. "These are the individuals who remind us all of the power of giving." Rosa's stomach twisted. Was that her name on the list? She had spent so long serving others, caring for their needs and comforts. But to think that she'd be thrust into the spotlight felt surreal. "Just breathe," James whispered, his breath warm against her ear. "If you feel overwhelmed, just look at me." She nodded, grateful for the grounding presence he provided. Yet deep down, a storm of doubt brewed. The award was for the affluent and the privileged. What could her story possibly mean to them? As applause erupted, two names were called before hers. Rosa could feel the weight of the crowd's expectations. Each name celebrated had a resume lined with philanthropy, connections, and status. Then, everything quieted. And now, the announcer's voice turned dramatic, we have a truly remarkable nominee, Rosa Lane. The name echoed, reverberating through the hall. All eyes turned to her, and the world felt impossibly large and suffocating. Go on. James urged with a gentle smile, nudging her towards the stage. With shaky legs, she took a step forward, heart racing. Every whisper of doubt tried to drown her, but James's presence pushed her forward. As she climbed the few steps to the podium, she caught sight of the puzzled faces in the audience. Why is she here? She could almost hear them thinking. As she adjusted the microphone, a sense of vulnerability washed over her. This was not just a moment of recognition, it was a chance to redefine what it meant to belong. Thank you, Rosa started, her voice shaky but growing more confident with each word. Thank you so much for this honor. The words flowed out, like breath after a long dive. I never thought I'd be standing here, receiving an award for something I believe should be a part of all of us: compassion, connection, love. A murmur of interest rippled through the crowd. She paused, allowing the moment to settle. I've spent my life serving, and I've learned that being in the background doesn't mean you're less valuable. Sometimes, it's the smallest acts of kindness that create ripples of change. The silence was palpable, and she felt James's unwavering support in the distance. However, we all face challenges that can hold us back. Tonight, I stand here, not just as a maid, but as someone who believes in the potential for all of us to unite regardless of our stations in life. Her heart raced. Could she be heard? Did they really understand? I may not have a title or wealth, she continued, but my worth is not defined by that. She felt the stirring of acceptance in her heart, the certainty that she belonged. We all have stories, and we all deserve a chance to share them. Pulses quickened in the audience, and she saw a range of reactions: surprise, intrigue, and a few nods of approval. This was it. As the applause began to build, a wave of relief swept over her. She'd spoken her truth and shared the light she had often hidden. But as she descended the stage, a nagging thought crept in: would this moment redefine her and James, or would it be their undoing? James met her at the base of the stage, pride glowing in his eyes. You were incredible, he beamed, pulling her into an embrace. Rosa smiled, but doubt simmered just beneath the surface. What would happen when the applause faded and the room began to chatter again? Could they survive the repercussions of this moment? As they stepped away, whispers filled the air, and her heart caught in her throat. There was something brewing, something that hinted this was just the beginning of a much larger story. Would they be able to turn the tide together, or would the very world they fought against tear them apart? Rosa's heart still raced as she and James stepped back into the crowd. The air was thick with anticipation, the applause still echoing in her ears, but it felt like they had stumbled into a new reality. James kept his hand on the small of her back, guiding her, both protective and proud. Hear that? He said, tilting his head toward a group of guests gathered nearby, their expressions shifting between skepticism and appreciation. They're talking about you. Rosa swallowed hard. She could hear snippets of their conversation. Some people genuinely seemed moved, but others whispered doubt, questioning her path from maid to honored guest. Each syllable felt like a weight pressing down on her. The cheering had given her wings, but now she feared they would suddenly clip them. I didn't mean to disrupt anything, she admitted, voice low. The insecurities she thought she put to rest crept back, wrapping around her like a cold blanket. I just wanted to share what I believe. Rosa, that's exactly what you needed to do. You planted a seed. Now, we'll see who's brave enough to water it, James replied, his voice steady, injecting warmth into her uncertainty. As they made their way through the throng of elegantly clad men and women, Rosa's eyes landed on a woman standing alone, her expression contemplative as she clutched her champagne flute. She was older, richly dressed, yet moved by something deeper. Excuse me, Rosa said, breaking away from James's side to approach the woman. Hi, I'm Rosa Lane. The woman looked up, surprised as though pulled from a daydream. "I saw you on stage, truly inspiring," she said, her tone layered with sincerity. "I never thought someone like you would share such powerful words." Rosa's heart warmed a little, her breath hitching in her throat. But was there an undercurrent in the woman's compliments? Before she could unravel the thought, the woman continued, "I'm Vivian Sterling. My husband and I run a foundation focused on empowering individuals who have faced hardships like yours." "Really?" Rosa replied, curiosity blooming. "That's amazing." Vivian interrupted with a kind smile, "If you're open to it, I'd love for you to connect with my husband. We could use someone like you to inspire our community programs." The spark of opportunity ignited a flame inside Rosa, and a flicker of hope shot through her veins. But then, doubts began to swirl once again. "Are you sure? I mean, I'm just a maid. I don't have the credentials like others do." "Credentials? They don't define you," Vivian said firmly, a spark of passion igniting in her eyes. "If anything, your story holds more weight than any diploma." Just then, a deep voice cut through the conversation. "Vivian, dear, I need you." A tall, distinguished man approached, affable yet commanding. "Ah, and you must be Rosa Lane. I heard some fascinating things about you tonight." Rosa felt the tension in her stomach. She was still trying to unpack what Vivian had just said, and now here was this man, likely a billionaire in a tailored suit, examining her as if she were a novel he wished to dissect. "Thank you, sir," Rosa managed, aware of James inching closer behind her as if sensing her unease. "This award, what does it mean to you?" the man asked, his eyes piercing, probing. "You made a bold choice by accepting it. Not everyone would." The intensity of his gaze made Rosa's heart race. "It means everything. It's about breaking barriers and showing that we can all make a difference, no matter where we come from." "That passion, it could spark a movement," he replied, his tone thoughtful, as if piecing together a puzzle. "Imagine channeling that into something bigger." Before she could fully process his words, he turned to Vivian. "Let's discuss the potential here." He stepped away, gesturing her to follow, leaving Rosa frozen, her mind racing. James took her hand. "What just happened? I'm not sure, did I really just create a ripple?" she whispered, nearly incredulous. But before they could dissect those implications, a rising murmur swept through the crowd, a sensation of expectancy building. "Do you hear that?" James asked softly, his brow furrowing. Suddenly, the announcer's voice pierced through, sounding almost urgent this time. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our special guest of the evening, a billionaire philanthropist with a heart of gold." The room erupted in a different kind of cheer as the man from before stepped onto the stage, a knowing look passing between him and Rosa that sent a thrill up her spine. What did this gathering of influential figures mean for her future? As she glanced around, the crowd suddenly felt too large, too overwhelming. Rosa's heart swelled, uncertain of the road ahead, yet she could already feel the winds of change beginning to blow in her direction. What if she was meant to lead this movement after all? Could they really overturn the tide of fate, or would this newfound attention drown them in deeper waters? Rosa's mind was racing as she turned to James, her heart pounding in tandem with the growing applause. She felt as if the ground beneath her feet had shifted, the evening had taken a turn that seemed almost unimaginable moments ago. Did he just mention the potential for something bigger? She murmured, her voice thick with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "He did," James replied, scanning the crowd with a look that matched her own bewilderment. "This is significant, Rosa. They want your story. This could be an opportunity to change lives, including your own." But before she could respond, the man at the podium launched into his speech. His voice boomed across the room, drawing the audience's rapt attention. "Tonight, we celebrate not just achievement, but the spirit of resilience. I was moved by the story of Rosa Lane, who stood before us all and spoke her truth. She is not just a maid, she is a voice for the voiceless. Rosa felt her cheeks flush as she heard her name. It drummed in her ears like a heartbeat, anchoring her to this moment. Each word he spoke lit a fire in her chest, yet doubt whispered in the back of her mind. Could she truly be more than what everyone thought of her? The crowd erupted in applause again, and Rosa could feel their eyes on her. She stole a glance at James, whose smile was bright, his pride palpable. "You see?" he said quietly, squeezing her hand. "This is only the beginning. You just need to believe in yourself." As the billionaire continued, he spoke of change and empowerment. "We must lift each other up. Rosa embodies that spirit," he declared. "And I invite her to share her experiences, to inspire and create programs that serve those in need. Let us make a difference together." Rosa's heart skipped a beat. Create programs? Could this really be her path? A longing stirred within her. What if she could help others, change lives, just as Vivian had suggested? The applause, deafening, filled the room. Instead of feeling overwhelmed, Rosa felt a warmth blossoming in her chest. Maybe she had a role to play after all. But just then, her thoughts were interrupted as the man gestured for her to join him on stage. "Rosa, come. We want to hear your voice." All eyes turned to her, the weight of the invitation sinking in. In that moment, she felt exposed, utterly vulnerable. Yet there was warmth in that vulnerability, a possibility that ignited courage deep inside her. She took a deep breath, heart hammering. "Wait, what if I mess up?" she whispered to James, panic creeping in once more. He smiled reassuringly. "Just speak your truth. That's all anyone wants to hear." Summoning every ounce of bravery, Rosa nodded and made her way to the stage. Each step felt like a small leap into the unknown. Behind her, she felt James's unwavering support, a tether that offered security among the whirlpool of emotions swirling within her. As she stood under the spotlight, the murmurs faded into silence. All that remained was her heartbeat, echoing against a backdrop of expectation. "What can I possibly say?" she thought, glancing at the expectant faces, each one a reflection of hope and curiosity. Rosa cleared her throat, feeling the weight of the moment. Could she inspire them? Could she truly lead this charge? Taking one more deep breath, she spoke. "I used to think being a maid defined my worth," and as she shared her journey, her words flowed like a river bursting through a dam, full of honesty and raw emotion. She wasn't just sharing her story, she was inviting them all to join her in a dream that felt both wild and beautiful. By the time she finished, applause erupted anew. She stood there, breathless and alive, a wave of possibility washing over her. As she left the stage, exhilaration clashed with fear. She had been exposed in the best way possible, her truth laid bare before a crowd of potential allies. Would they stand with her? Would they support her dreams? Rosa cast a nervous glance towards the stage. The man smiled knowingly, but there was so much more at stake than just her moment in the spotlight. What lay ahead was uncertain, a path carved by both fear and hope. Could she really become a beacon for others? And as questions of identity and purpose danced in the air, Rosa was left wondering, had she just set her dreams in motion, or had she unwittingly opened the floodgates for a storm she wasn't ready to face? Rosa stepped off the stage, her heart still racing. The applause echoed in her ears, but it felt miles away, like a distant memory. Underneath the glow of the chandelier, she felt exposed, raw. She scanned the crowd, their faces eager yet somewhat expectant, as if waiting for something more. James was there, his expression a mixture of pride and encouragement. "You were amazing," he whispered, pulling her into a warm embrace. The moment was electric, a realization dawning in her, she had touched their hearts. But how far could it go? Across the room, the billionaire was shaking hands, enthusiastically sharing her story with others. "That's Mr. Caldwell," James pointed out. "He's a game changer. If he believes in you, Rosa, then you must embrace this chance. Rosa felt a flicker of hope igniting inside her. But just as quickly, fear crept in. What if she let them down? What if the applause she received tonight faded into nothing? Moments later, Mr. Caldwell approached her, his presence commanding. "I'm thrilled you shared your voice with us," he said, his tone warm yet direct. "But I want to talk about the future. We need to discuss how we can turn your story into action." Rosa's pulse quickened. Action? The word resonated deeply. She thought of Vivian, the mentor who believed in her. "I want to help others, just like I was helped. If I could create a program, perhaps I could empower those in similar situations." "Absolutely," Mr. Caldwell replied, his eyes illuminating with enthusiasm. "We can establish workshops, mentorships, real programs that can make a difference." He paused, assessing her. "But it starts with you being the face of this initiative. Are you ready for that?" The question hung in the air. Was she ready? The weight of the opportunity pressed down like a heavy blanket, smothering her excitement with looming doubt. "I want to be, but it seems daunting," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Mr. Caldwell's expression softened. "Doubt is natural. Every journey has its hurdles. It's about what you do next that counts. If you take the lead, your courage can inspire others." Rosa looked around at the vibrant crowd, filled with potential supporters. "What if I fail?" she asked, her brows knitting together. "You won, he said firmly, a reassuring smile spreading across his face. "You have already shown strength by speaking your truth. Remember, you don't have to walk this path alone. You have allies who believe in you." The word struck her. Allies. She had James by her side, and now this incredible opportunity unfolding before her. It felt surreal. But with this revelation, exhilaration began to mingle with her anxiety. As the night slipped away, Rosa found herself in conversation after conversation. Each discussion filled her with energy, framing her aspirations in a tangible way. They laughed together, exchanged stories, and shared visions of a future she dared to imagine. But even amidst the laughter, a burning question remained. How would she navigate the trials ahead? When she finally stepped outside for a breath of fresh air, the cool breeze revitalized her. The night sky glittered with stars, a vast canvas that felt almost alive with potential. She focused on her reflection in a nearby window, realizing for the first time that she was more than just a maid, she was a leader in the making. Just as she poised herself to embrace this transformation, a familiar voice broke through the air. "Rosa! There you are." It was Vivian, rushing towards her and radiating pride. "I watched you up there. You were incredible." But as they hugged, Rosa sensed a shift in the atmosphere. Vivian's smile faded slightly as she pulled back, her eyes reflecting concern. "We need to talk." Rosa's heart dropped. What could possibly be wrong? What news awaited her that might change everything she had just embraced? Rosa's breath caught in her throat. The weight of Vivian's tone hung heavily in the air, turning the vibrant joy of the evening into something uncertain and daunting. "What is it?" she asked, forcing the words out even as they burned under the pressure of dread. Vivian seemed to wrestle with her thoughts for a moment, glancing back towards the lavish ballroom as if seeking the right words. "It's about the workshop. I mean the initiative with Mr. Caldwell." "What about it?" Rosa's heart raced. Fear spiraled through her, questions forming a chaotic storm in her mind. Was the opportunity slipping away before she even had a chance to grasp it? Vivian inhaled deeply, collecting her composure. "There's something you need to know about Mr. Caldwell. While he has the means to make a difference, his past is complicated." Rosa squinted under the bright lights of the entrance, searching for clarity. "Complicated? In what way?" "He was involved in some projects that didn't end well. Some people got hurt. There are whispers about him, things that aren't flattering. Rosa's heart sank. This wasn't what she wanted to hear. She thought of the man who had looked her in the eyes and offered her a chance to be a beacon for others. Her trust surged with the memories of the applause, the conversations that sparked hope. But now, doubt seeped into those memories, tainting the bright moments with shadows. People can change, Rosa finally said, her voice stronger than she felt. I mean, he's willing to help. That matters, right? Vivian nodded slowly, though her gaze held that of unspoken belief mixed with concern. It does matter, Rosa. It's just, you need to protect yourself. Sometimes, the risks aren't worth the rewards. Confusion enveloped Rosa. Protect herself? She thought of the dreams swirling within her, of the possibilities of creating a community for those like her. Was she supposed to step away simply because there were bumps on the road ahead? Before she could voice her swirling thoughts, a sharp sound captured their attention. Across the path, the sound of crashing glass erupted from the lobby. A woman had lost her balance, wine spilling across the floor, the gasps of the surrounding crowd amplifying the chaos. Rosa instinctively stepped forward, instinct guiding her. The evening seemed to blend between magic and disarray. She was drawn to help, ignoring the worry that lingered with Vivian's revelations. With her heart racing for a different reason, she rushed toward the scene, her hopes momentarily pushed aside. Rosa! Wait! Vivian called after her, but Rosa pressed on, focused on the fallen woman. Slipping on the smooth surface, she knelt beside her, offering her hand. As she helped the embarrassed woman up, she caught a brief glimpse of the crowd. Where once she saw allies, now they seemed separate, divided by uncertainty. Between whispers, someone spoke her name, Rosa. Followed by something else that cut through the air. You don't belong here. The harsh voice froze her in place. It wasn't just the words but the weight behind them, echoing through her doubts like a bell tolling a warning. She spun to face the source, anger brewing within her. What do you mean I don't belong? Everyone here deserves a chance. Everyone has a voice. The person smirked, crossed arms and skepticism written all over his face. You think you can waltz in, give a speech, and suddenly change the world? You're just a maid. Rosa's heart raced, vulnerability battling courage as she squared her shoulders. She could feel Vivian's worried presence near her, yet a fire ignited within her that she couldn't ignore. No, I'm not just a maid. I'm more than the circumstances I was born into. And I will be heard. As the crowd looked on, a mix of skepticism and curiosity played across their faces. Would they hear her? The moment felt electric as the trials ahead began to take solid shape. She knew she was at a crossroads, courage battling against deep-set fears. But could she forge ahead with everything shifting around like quicksand? In this uneasy silence, she felt her resolve wavering, but a spark of determination ignited within her once more. She had come too far to back down now. You may think I'm just a maid, Rosa shouted to the crowd, steadiness returning to her voice. But I have a story worth sharing. And with the right support, I can make a difference. As murmurs stirred around her, she tried to capture their attention once more, wanting so desperately to connect. What if she could transform that skepticism into belief? What if she became the voice of change she so longed to be? Rosa stood firm amid the chaos, questioning everything she thought she knew about resilience and vulnerability, but in the depths of her resolve, uncertainty loomed again. What would it take to prove herself, and was there enough time to turn this moment around? She turned to Vivian, eyes wide with urgency. What do I need to learn to make this work? But just as the ground felt solid under her feet, she remembered the words of Mr. Caldwell echoing in her mind. Are you ready for that? With a shift in the atmosphere, a new urgency unfolded within her, leaving her questioning if she truly understood what was at risk, and what would come next. Would her voice be strong enough, or would it vanish like all her doubts threatened to do? Rosa's heart thundered in her chest, a steady boom that drowned out the murmurs of the crowd. She needed a plan, a way to turn the tide. Each second felt like a minute as she stared into the faces around her, some curious, others judgmental. Vivian's supportive presence was a lifeline, but she felt the weight of the moment pressing down. Taking a deep breath, she forced herself to continue. Every person, regardless of their background, has the power to create change. That includes me. Her voice, more steady now, resonated with a passion that surprised even herself. The sneering man shifted uncomfortably, the interest of those nearby shifting with him. Change? What do you know about change? You serve tables. You clean the messes of others. What wisdom do you bring to the table? A flicker of anger sparked in her, but she tempered it. I know what it's like to be overlooked. To have doors shut in your face because of where you come from. But I also know it takes just one moment, the right opportunity, for everything to change. Rosa's words hung in the air, electric. Behind her, Vivian stepped forward, her expression transforming from shock to unmistakable pride. That little shift in energy warmed Rosa's spirit. Perhaps this wasn't just about herself but about lifting others too. What if I can show you how I can help? She gestured to the fallen woman, who now stood upright, brushing off remnants of her spilled drink. Life can be messy. But in that mess, we find our strength. And we can lift others. The crowd murmured again, voices rising in intrigued conversation. What had once been a hostile sphere now seemed to encounter a glimmer of realization. The smirking man squinted, dropping his arms. You think you alone can bring people together? I know I can, Rosa replied, fire igniting in her chest again. But I can't do it without you. I need your help, just like you need mine. That's how we find real change together. She scanned the group, meeting gazes, searching for allies among the skeptics. She saw their doubts, their insecurities. Deep down, they yearned for connection, just like her. Imagine what we could accomplish, she continued, eyes sparkling with possibility. Imagine a community where we lift each other, where our stories intertwine and create something beautiful. Not just a future for ourselves but a future for those who come after us. The silence grew thick, punctuated only by the shifting of feet on the marble floor. A few heads nodded. A woman in the back wiped away tears, her gaze fixed on Rosa. A flicker of hope glimmered. But just as that hope bloomed, a figure emerged from the crowd. It was Mr. Caldwell. Tall and imposing, he walked with a calm confidence that momentarily stilled the whirlwind around Rosa. I've been watching, he said, his voice resonating like a soft drum. Rosa, you've ignited something in this room we desperately need. She felt her breath hitch, warmth flooding through her. You really think so? I do. But it'll take more than words. It'll take action, commitment, and tools to make your dream a reality. Are you ready to take that step? His question echoed louder than any judgment or doubt she had faced moments before. This was a crossroads. Would she take the leap into the unknown, or retreat back into safety? Rosa caught Vivian's eye, and in that shared glance, everything crystallized. The fears that had once clouded her dreams now felt like mere shadows, dancing at the edges of her consciousness, unable to hold her back. I am ready, she said, the weight of those words filling her with a fierce determination. But was she prepared for what would come next? Would the risks be worth the potential fallout? As the crowd began to murmur again, their expressions shifting from skepticism to anticipation, Rosa felt the tide of the evening turning. She was on the brink of something monumental. And she suddenly realized a voice could not just change the world, it could rally the support needed to turn dreams into reality. How could they build that community together? What steps lay ahead? Then, as she stood, poised at the precipice of her resolve, questions began to swirl like a whirlwind. Would they follow her? And more importantly, would she be able to handle the challenges that awaited? As she stared at Mr. Caldwell, waiting for the next words to come. Uncertainty danced like fireflies in the cool night air, leaving Rosa at the edge of her story, wondering what came next. Rosa was still standing in the spotlight, the crowd buzzing with newfound energy. Mr. Caldwell's gaze was steady and unwavering, as if he could read her thoughts, as if he understood the weight of what she was about to undertake. Her heart raced, and the adrenaline surged through her veins. This was a moment she had only dreamed of, yet here it was, breathing life all around her. Before we can talk about taking steps forward, I want to hear from you all. Mr. Caldwell's voice commanded attention. What do you want? What does change mean to each of you? The crowd shifted, uncertainty hanging thick in the air. But Rosa felt a spark igniting among them. A quiet voice broke the tension. I want a job. A real one that pays enough to actually live. Exactly. Mr. Caldwell encouraged, glancing toward the speaker, a young man with a hopeful twinkle in his weary eyes. And what else? I want my kids to have a future, shouted another voice, a mother who had been visibly moved. I want them to dream big, to chase those dreams without fear. Rosa's chest tightened with emotion. The room was alive now, a chorus of desires and aspirations rising above the past hurt and judgment. Each story resonated with her. Every aspiration echoed her own. This was the foundation they needed, a space for sharing truth, vulnerability, and the promise of growth. I want to help, Rosa finally said, her voice filling the air like a warm embrace. Together, we can create programs that support job training, offer mentorship, and provide resources for our community. We can be the light for each other. Mr. Caldwell nodded vigorously. Yes. We can kick off this movement right now. His enthusiasm was infectious, and the crowd felt it ripple through them, but the man who had first scoffed at Rosa stepped forward again, skepticism etched on his face. And how will you do all this? Where will the funding come from? Rosa paused, the weight of his question sending a wave of doubt through her. She hadn't thought that far ahead. But instead of faltering, she straightened her back. We'll reach out to local businesses for support, apply for grants, and bring our voices together. It starts with us believing that change is possible. The murmurs of the crowd grew louder, a mix of skepticism and intrigue. Could they really do this? Could they unlock doors previously barred? She knew they had to shift collective mindsets, and that could take time. Mr. Caldwell stepped closer, leaning slightly toward Rosa. But every dream needs a champion. Are you willing to lead this charge, Rosa? His question wrapped around her like a warm blanket. A chill danced along her spine, a blend of fear and exhilaration. She had taken the first steps in the spotlight, now she was being handed the reins. Suddenly, the enormity of the task ahead struck her. What would it mean to be a leader? For a moment, doubt threatened to sneak in, but she brushed it away like a speck of dust. This was her chance, her moment to turn vulnerability into strength. She could inspire and ignite hope. Yes, Rosa declared, the word felt like a spark, set ablaze by the encouragement of those around her. I am ready to lead. Together, we will build something beautiful. As her declaration echoed in the minds of those gathered, energy surged within the room like a rising tide. Faces softened, and some began to smile. The storm clouds of doubt started to lift, replaced with something more promising, hope, but just as everything seemed to solidify, Rosa felt a sudden chill. What if she failed? What if she let everyone down? Before she could spiral deeper into those thoughts, Mr. Caldwell's voice sliced through her reverie. Then let us set a date for our first gathering. Let us lay out the plan. Let us put our words into action. Excitement rippled through the crowd as they started discussing potential dates and places. Hands shook, small groups formed, and promises began to flow like fresh spring water. Rosa felt that flicker of hope ignite within her again. However, as the buzz escalated, she caught sight of someone watching from the back. An older gentleman, his eyes narrowed and cold, shook his head in disapproval. A flicker of dread nagged at her heart. What was he planning? As the crowd buzzed around her in celebration of newfound goals, the troubling thought of this shadowy presence lingered in her mind. Rosa knew that with every opportunity came threats. Her journey was only just beginning, and she'd need to confront whatever objections lay ahead. With the sound of voices fading into planning chaos, one single question loomed over her heart: how far was she ready to go for her community's future? Rosa stood there, feeling the newfound energy of hope ripple through the room. The crowd buzzed with excitement about their shared dreams. Still, she felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down on her shoulders. Yes, she was ready to lead, but the path ahead would be anything but smooth. She needed to prove herself not just to them but to herself as well. Don't let them distract you, James whispered, his voice a calming presence in the whirlwind. He squeezed her hand gently. You didn't come this far to let fear sideline you now. Just then, Mr. Caldwell called for attention. Everyone. I need your stories. I want to hear about the change you want to create. His enthusiasm was infectious, reigniting the flames of purpose. People began to stand, sharing experiences that pierced through barriers, connecting souls with shared struggles, stories of job loss, fear for their children's futures, and dreams of education. Each voice added to the growing narrative of a community united by more than circumstance. Rosa listened, her heart swelling with empathy. Yet, visions of doubt crept in as she stood, ready to voice her own experience. I might not have the same background as some of you, she began, confident but cautious. But I know what it feels like to feel invisible, to be underestimated. Tonight, I stepped out of the shadows, and I discovered I have the power to uplift myself and those around me. The applause that followed felt like a soft embrace, igniting her spirit further. They were listening. They believed in her. The flickers of doubt faltered, urging her to embrace her emerging role as a leader fully. As discussions continued, Mr. Caldwell approached and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. People need to see you believe in yourself as much as they believe in you. Rosa nodded, feeling galvanizing strength in his words. I want to lead the charge for our community, she declared, her resolve steady. But I can't do it alone. I need your support. Together, we can build programs, places where we uplift each other with job training, educational resources, and connection. Instantly, hands shot up. The room came alive with suggestions and ideas. There was a chorus of thinkers, doers, and those ready to forge ahead. Plans were formed, commitments were made, and hope surged like a river through their souls. Still, in the back of her mind, the old gentleman's disapproving gaze lingered. Who was he, and why did he seem so against what was unfolding? She brushed the thought aside, focusing instead on the community rallying around her. As the meetings wrapped up, a buzz of excitement filled the space. People shared numbers, potential meeting points, and ideas for further collaboration. In that electric atmosphere, Rosa could hardly contain her joy. We did it! She exclaimed to James, unable to hide the glow of satisfaction on her face. But then, as people filtered out, a voice called out from behind. You think this will change anything? The man who had scoffed at her earlier now stepped forward, crossing his arms defiantly. You really believe a bunch of nice words will change the reality of our situation? Rosa felt a shiver of apprehension. It's not merely words. It's action, support, and community. That's how change happens. You're dreaming, he shot back. A few disbelievers around the room nodded, their expressions still doubtful. She could feel those doubts tugging at her, but desperation transformed into determination. You're right. Positive words alone won't do it. But collective action will. I need people who are ready to work, not just talk. That hit home. She locked eyes with the crowd, gauging reactions. Fear faded into something that felt tangible: potential. I am here to build something real. A space where we can all start moving forward. The question is, are you with me? Silence fell. People exchanged looks, many nodding, a few still hesitant. Mr. Caldwell stepped forward again, amplifying the momentum. Change takes time, but look around. We're not perfect, but if Rosa can believe in us, can we do the same for her? The flicker of doubt in the eyes of some began to turn into serious contemplation. Rosa felt hope surging, and the shift in energy was palpable. In that moment, Rosa realized she stood at the precipice of something extraordinary, a chance not just to inspire, but to ignite lasting change. The whispers of skepticism faded into the background, the support of her community shone brightly. "Let us do this," she said, sweeping her gaze across the room, the conviction behind her words rising, "not just for ourselves, but for everyone who deserves a chance." And with that declaration, a wave of applause erupted, not just for her but for a collective vision, and as warmth enveloped her heart, Rosa knew this was only the beginning of their journey together. As they left, the thrill of possibility lifted their spirits. Rosa walked confidently beside James, hope intertwining their hearts. Step by step, they would face challenges, but together they were capable of so much more than she had ever imagined. Fueled by courage, determination, and a community that believed, they stepped into the future ready to lift themselves and each other higher than ever. Now, it's time for you to make a choice. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire change. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help bring more stories like this to the forefront. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. We want to hear from you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation, because together, we can spark a movement. Don't wait not even one more second. This is the moment to show your support.